Need me?
Okay, cool.
I need to stand right here. Am I good? Okay, let's go ahead and get this meeting started. We are RLI, for those of you not familiar with the organization. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with mission to keep rural character of the county rural and to keep citizens of Leavenworth County informed of what's going on tonight. We're very happy to have Larry Scheller, the trustee for Stranger Township. Chuck Staples, excuse me for looking at my notes here, the treasurer. He's also held every position within the township. Larry actually used to be the county treasurer for a few years. Clerk. Okay, clerk. We also have in the back, we have Troy McKintrick and Bert
Dunham.
and Bert, who are associated with the Stranger County Volunteer Fire Department. And before I go, can you get a close up on this? It's after the meeting, if you're interested in getting a free smoke detector or a carbon monoxide detector installed in your home, if you do not already have one, these gentlemen can tell you how to do that.
Well, there's other things involved that just.
Okay.
You have to qualify for.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I had these cheat sheets.
So tonight we're here to learn about what Stranger Township is all about here. Roles, responsibilities, and how they interface with the other government agencies.
Okay, I missed that part, sorry.
The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, townships primarily provide a means of limited self-government in rural areas. They do not have home rule powers and have only powers expressly granted to them by statute. Township officials' functions and duties. Voters in Kansas Township elect township trustee, clerk, and treasurer. Trustee and treasurer elected the same year, clerk the next year. These three officials form the township board and serve as a term of 4 years. The board is also referred to as the Township Board of Highway Commissioners, but this is not the case in Leavenworth County since they took the roads away from the townships. The Township Board also is the Township Auditing Board. In this capacity, the board is responsible for the general management and supervision of township finances and is required to make an annual report to the Board of County Commissioners. The annual audit is accomplished through the county clerk's office. Township trustee. It's an elected official. Township trustee is considered the chief officer of the township. Among his responsibilities or her responsibilities are the following: ensure all money belonging to the township are properly spent. Provide for the care and maintenance of all property, real and personal, belonging to the township. Superintend all financial concerns of the township. Levy a tax on property of the township with advice and approval of the Board of County Commissioners. Additionally, the trustee has several responsibilities required by other laws. They include the following: annual audit report to the county commissioners, grants trustee custody and disposition of all property of the township, requires trustees to make a verified annual statement of all the bills allowed by the township board each October, and the trustee must preserve that statement. Township treasurer. Township treasurer is responsible for receiving all the monies of the township and for dispersing money upon orders of the township trustee. Treasurer must keep either the electronic record book or book of accounts of the township and a file copy for the verified duplication of the accounts with the county clerk before January 31st of each year. When I first got on the board, we had a big ledger book that was about this thick. Everything was written in. So with the computers, that's helped a lot. The record must the record must include verified receipts, expenditures, and liabilities for the preceding year. The treasurer also is responsible for the publication of financial summary in the newspaper of general circulation in the township following the annual settlement in December if the budget exceeds $25,000. Township clerk. Township clerk is responsible for the custody of the records, the books, the papers of the township. Township other duties. Other duties of Kansas Township include repairing equipment and maintaining township hall or other facilities, caring for the abandonment cemetery within the township, care and maintenance of cemeteries, establishing and maintaining recreational facilities, and operating and maintaining the fire department. Transfers. Transfer from general fund to equipment fund. Authorize the annual budgeted transfer up to 25% of the general fund to an equipment reserve fund to finance the acquisition of equipment. Budget process. No questions so far?
Could you turn the mic on?
Why?
I mean, it's not for here. Do we have any people online, Sherry?
Yeah, Eric.
Let's go ahead and turn the light, if we can get the mic on so they can hear us online. Thank you.
Budget process. Budget process starts mid-June with notification from the Leavenworth County Clerk's office, either by phone or township needs to decide if they will exceed the revenue neutral rate. The township decides to remain revenue neutral. Then the budget process continues with the clerk's office sending our budget for that year with the evaluation increases added and publishes the date and time of the township budget hearing. At the budget hearing, the township holds a vote on approval of the budget. If the township decides to exceed the revenue neutral rate, then the budget is sent to the township and published in the local paper with date and time of township budget hearing. At the budget hearing, before the vote on the budget can take place, the township board needs to approve a resolution exceeding the revenue neutral rate, and the board has to sign the resolution. Once the resolution is passed by majority vote and signed, then a roll call vote takes place and is certified by the township clerk. Once the roll call vote is approved, then the budget can be voted on. The next step is to get the resolution, roll call, and sign copy of the budget to the Leavenworth County Clerk's office before the end of September of that year.
It's just, I have a kind of question while you're talking about budget stuff. It's 25% of the taxable entities, if you will, in Leavenworth County pay for flood abatement. I mean, it's not much. I don't think I saw anything above 2.5. 1.5 appeared to be the mean. It's, where does that money go and who controls it?
Well, the 25% referring to the transfer is 25% of your budget expenditure, budget authority for that year.
No, it's, I'm just talking about the mill levy for floods.
No, I have no idea what that goes. Larry?
I didn't even know there was a mill of it.
Yeah, if you take a look, I'm sorry.
No. I have a quick question for you. Who's the third member of the board?
Pardon?
Who's the third member of the board?
Oh, Dave Drennan, he's a clerk. He lives up there in where Marty used to live, next to Marty.
Where Tree's old grocery store was, they're on the curve,
Yeah.
corner,
Shreve's Corner,
yeah.
Yep.
great woodworker, by the way.
Any questions on what I said or didn't say right, Larry?
No.
Any questions?
It is fine.
You want me to pass them on?
Thank you.
Since I worked at the courthouse for more than a year, I know a tad bit about taxes. What you have is, in current years, all the mill levies for everything in Leavenworth County. So it starts with the county up at the top, and then the cities, then the townships, and the school districts are all the way to the bottom. And all of your miscellaneous districts are over there on the right-hand side of the county rates. It's no secret that schools get about 60 to 65 cents of every dollar. It's no secret that the county gets anywhere from 30 to 35 cents of every dollar. And what little bit's left, maybe a dime. 15 cents at the most, goes to the townships or library. Everybody, whether you know it or not, pays some kind of a library rate, no matter where you live. If you live in a city, you go over there, cities, you can see that Leavenworth has a library, and Bonner Springs is listed there as a library, and Lansing has a library, and Tonganoxie has a library. Well, for those of us who live in the county, I live in the Baser Community Library District. There's a Linwood Library that's been going on forever. And if you don't live in any of those, there's this Northeast Kansas Library that's been around forever, which is at the bottom of the district rates over there at the top of the page. If you don't live in the city library or Linwood or Baser, you pay that rate. Anyway, township. Every year, about the 1st of March, we all get this little letter from the county appraiser's office that tells us how much they're going to up our valuation on our houses for the current year. And I wish we had more people here, but you know, wishing one hand, you know what, on the back of it, it tells you what the various rates are. And for all residential houses, it's 11.5%. And that's what it is for the most part, unless you got some farm ground, like I live on a farm, and it's 30% of, you know, what it's used for. So we got 70 acres in row crop. I pay 30% on that. Then we've got like 100 and some odd acres of just hay ground. Well, then it drops down to, you know, 30% of value is what it is. Anyway, so just for the sake of example, let's say you have a $50,000 valuation on your property, and you're going to pay 11.5%. That comes up to $28,750. Since this is Stranger Township and we're talking about Stranger Township, if you'll notice on the township rates, I'll talk about this first. Over to the right, it says county roads. And if you notice, that mill levy on the county roads is exactly the same no matter what township you live in. In case you haven't been around here quite as long as I have, prior to 1976, the townships actually took care of the township roads. And in 1976, the county had a countywide election and asked the voters if they wanted the county to take over the roads. And it passed overwhelmingly. And I'm not saying anything about what the townships did prior to 1976, but I do know it still had 3 people. Most of them were farmers. Each township might have had 1 grader and a dump truck. And when the farmer wasn't in the field doing his thing, he might be hauling a load of rock, or he might be grading the road. I've had people move out here from Johnson County and complain about the roads. And my thought is, it's not even close right now with the county taking care of them as it was when the township, not to take anything away from the townships, but they just didn't have the manpower or the money to take care of them. So that road levy is the same no matter which township you live in. So when you see the total over to the right, it's very deceiving because most of that total is the county roads. Now in Stranger Township, we have a levy of 2.234. If you have a property that the appraiser values at $250,000 and you have to pay 11.5% of that, which is that value, that. And you take that time, all it is $2.23.4 times 28,750. And this $250,000 house would pay $64.23 a year to Stranger Township for what we do, which is mainly for the fire department. And
That $250,000 piece of ground would pay 64.20.
Well, our house.
Not house.
no, it'd be a house too. That's 11.5%.
Property.
Wow,
All right.
it's, yeah, and if you had a, but I won't write it up here, because you can figure it out yourself. If you had a $500,000 property, it's the same formula. You pay $128.45 on your property. So as far as what the township gets, it's a very, very small percentage of your overall taxes. Whoops. This is my tax statement. My taxes last year on that mansion that I live in. Which is 1,160 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that was built in 1973. It's $2,977.26 now. And of that $2,977, I paid $59.10 to Stranger Township.
I'm gonna correct something I said earlier. It's excuse me for putting it in a different way. I said flood control, but what I'm seeing is big stranger drainage.
Big
I'm seeing-
Stranger drainage.
I'm seeing drainage
Stranger
from-
drainage has been around forever. It was there when I was up there. It's probably located along Stranger Creek. So,
Yes.
so if you live in Tonganoxie, or if you live in Baser, or if you live in where I live, you don't pay the big Stranger drainage. district.
Who controls that money though?
They've got a separate board. I think it's a 3-person board. They run every 4 years also. And it's mainly, if I remember correctly, you get high water, floods out in the lowlands, brush gets everywhere, they might hire somebody to come in there and clean it up. I think that they don't get a whole lot of money.
Okay, it's,
in a
the
year.
mill levy's not that great on any of them, but it
No,
exists in 25% of the taxable entity.
Aren't they also levy maintenance? Or isn't that also levy maintenance, Larry?
what, wow,
Isn't that also levy maintenance?
it
Aren't
could
they
be.
charged with that?
Big Stranger only has a 1.542.
For stranger, yeah.
Yeah, and it's strictly for property on both sides of Stranger Creek.
Okay,
The creek stays in all year long. They don't have to spend a penny.
and then where's the money go?
It just stays in there.
Okay,
It rotates from one year to the next. But
So they also publish a budget, do they not?
yeah, Big
Oh, yeah.
Stranger, anybody that's on here
Does it do the same thing?
has to have a budget. A lot of these that you see over here at the top are just partially located in Leavenworth County. Fowler Cemetery, I think, comes over from, laps into Alexandria Township a little bit. Wild Horse Cemetery, Union Fire District 9. As you can see at the bottom of the township rates, see Tonganoxie, and then you see Union Fire underneath that. Union laps over from McLeod on the west side of Tonganoxie Township. The drainage districts, Nape and Fall Leaf, are down south by the river, down in, I want to say Sherman, where they're at.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Anyway, a lot of people county rates, and that's not near the rates that they used to have when I was at the courthouse. They had twice that many, they've consolidated them. But you can see as far as the county overall mill levy of 37.561, the bulk of that is either the general fund or the road and bridge. That's 32 mills of the 37. Any question?
I have a question.
Go.
You know, we have a Kansas City, Kansas Community College
Uh-huh.
in Leavenworth County, but I don't see any mill levy for that
Oh,
out of Leavenworth County. Does that mean that Kansas City, Kansas residents are funding
they're probably.
the mill levy
They're
for
probably
our,
funding the levy, but then the kids that's going to school are paying some kind of tuition
tuition? Yeah.
to help offset it.
Mhm.
I don't know what the ratio is.
Okay. And I don't recall seeing the budget published for like the drainage districts.
Big stranger.
Yeah, in the
It
paper.
would be in a lot more times. Or at least it always was when I
Should
was
be.
up there. Should be.
They're, a lot of times they're hard to find. We have to.
I mean, I look for that stuff. I watch it, but, I just don't recall. I mean, I'll keep my eye open for it. Maybe.
Is Leavenworth Times the official publication for Leavenworth County? And all of the taxing entities in it?
Well, maybe not all the taxing entities, I think. Like Tonganoxie School uses the Tonganoxie Mirror, and I'm sure the city does too. But I know Leavenworth County and like Leavenworth School Board and Leavenworth City all utilize them. And Easton does too. I've seen Easton Township in there and I've seen Easton City.
I think at one time, the Leavenworth Times was the official paper, but I think now you can put it either one. Two.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've only lived here since 98, so it's some kind of a baby, if you will. But every year it seems that Stranger Creek floods. And with Chuck McGaha, when he talked to our organization a couple months ago, said that was the key event. And this may be Board of County Commissioners or above, but it's interesting to me that there's not some sort of intergovernmental attempt to mitigate, not build levees, because that just pushes the problem downstream, but to mitigate flooding in the county. I mean, it's Tonky Road almost gets flooded out once a year. Leavenworth County 9 gets flooded out often as well. I know that's not stranger, and that may be about what you're.
Donahue on the east side of Tonganoxie Road,
Yeah,
you know.
Years ago, they talked about damming up Stranger there out by us and building the lake.
that would be nice. I mean, it's
Like Perry beat them to the punch. So they cut all the trees off the creek from Easton down to Linwood. Hoping that would make the water go back in quicker off the cropland. Didn't come. Yeah, all it did was ruin the fish.
like a word. Yeah.
The worst flooding on Strangers, from what I've seen over the years, is the city of Easton itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's nonstop.
It starts north of there,
yeah.
and by the time it gets down here, a lot of times it's back in its banks. Not all the time, if it's really, really heavy, but Easton going into it, there used to be businesses there on the west side of Stranger, and the school, there was a school there too.
Yeah, I know the guy that owns that, by the way.
They got tired.
That's Ty Martin, yeah.
Yeah, it's vacant now. The old school building's still standing there.
No, but Ty Martin has a business there. That's where Hillside Honey is.
Yeah, there was a tavern there called the Overflow. It's no longer there. It's more or less vacant.
No, but my point, and this may be above you guys a little bit, or although you might be able to advocate for it, is agricultural insurance. And you guys are both ranchers or farmers of sorts. Department of Agriculture pays out insurance benefits for people that get flooded out. Chuck McGaha, and it would seem that'd be a good place to have some intergovernmental efforts to mitigate as opposed to just levy up and then push the problem downstream. But and I'll get off my soapbox now, but.
Well,
The county or somebody is gonna have to come up with a lot more money than what is levied by, if I remember correctly. Big Stranger Drainage gets maybe $5,000 a year, and that doesn't go very far in today's world, you know. So if you're gonna really do, and I'm not saying what you're saying shouldn't be done, but what I am saying is they're gonna have to find a lot more money than what Big Stranger Drainage is levying every year in order to do anything worthwhile, whatever that might be, whether it's build a lake somewhere.
In Easton, yeah, make it Easton City Lake.
yeah, probably the best bet would be talk to your county commissioner.
Okay. I mean, I'm down here in Tonganoxie, I used to work on the port, so it doesn't really affect me anymore, but.
Any other questions? Not to trip over the cord.
Yeah.
That's all that-
Yeah, well, the fire part, it's, you got two fire chiefs here. Troy actually talked to me about some compensation for the fire chiefs, but not necessarily the firefighters. And my understanding is that firefighters, if they're called out west to deal with range fires or something like that, are treated as contractors, where professional city firefighters get their full salary as well as a per diem for going out there. Is there some compensation for the volunteers in Stranger Township if they're going there for training or if they get called out?
Well, I'm probably let Bert and Troy speak
Are
to
you
that.
talking about the wildland fires?
Yeah,
So if we are a member of the Wildland Task Force in Kansas, correct me if I'm wrong, and in the past, we were dispatched out to, where was it, Wyoming?
And then we went to Nebraska.
Nebraska, where we took a truck and two of our members. They were out for a week, okay? So Bert's retired, so, you know, he didn't worry about money. But Raymond, took off work and missed work, under the premise that they would be reimbursed just like any other fire department, right?
So,
Okay,
down.
so Southern Kansas, Nebraska. Long story short, the truck was reimbursed at a government rate, but because our members were volunteer, they got nothing. So my understanding is that there is legislation to where they're trying to get it to where the government will give the department the manpower monies and the truck monies, and then it's up to the department as to how they disperse those funds. But as of right now, this day, if we go out somewhere in Kansas, the truck gets reimbursed and we don't.
It depends on how the call is put out. If it's put out by the state, it is, we are not paid volunteer, truck is reimbursed. The new fire marshal, trying to get along with the governor, is trying to set it up to where if we get called out on a state fire, then we will get paid, everything will get paid and reimbursed through the department, then the department depends or decides on how it gets dispersed. If we get called out by the Kansas Forestry Service, which is backed by federal funds, then we're paid just like federal employees. The truck and the firefighters get paid because they mutual aid with 7 other states. So, because when we went to Clayton, Nebraska, that was a paid deal, and we were gone for a week on that one. But the one down southern Kansas, we was gone for 2 days on that one, and that was through KDHE, and only the truck got reimbursed. So I put an argument up with the fire marshal, and they had a meeting here in County City, that that's not right. We have a federal volunteer army, and they get paid. We have National Guard, which is volunteer. When they're called to duty, they get paid, because we're taking them away from their jobs. The same thing should be for volunteer fire departments. If you're calling them out where they're gonna be away from their homes for more than a day or 2 days, then they should be reimbursed, because you're taking away from their pocket of what they need to sustain their families with. So that's in the works. The thing that's going positive for us is the new fire marshal used to be a volunteer firefighter, so he kind of sees the limit.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else that you want to present?
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Don't do more too.
That's all. When are you going to put any pressure on our county commissioners to finish that stretch of 178th Street from State to Leavenworth Road? That's blank, that section across Hog Creek. I mean, quite frankly,
You
Jeff-
can take care of that.
Jeff did a wonderful job. He brought that road 1.5 miles north all the way to Hemp Hill. The guys are running south of Leavenworth Road, banded together as I have done on Donahue, in front of my house, and went up and paid the county to do it. So why don't we finish the damn stretch?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Well, you know, I actually, of course, have made it a point over the years that I've lived in the county, and that's only since 2005, by the way, I'm
Okay.
older than you are. To know who my county commissioner is and be sure to call him and ask him those questions. I have asked those questions of Willie Duff, and I got a response from the good guys at the road and bridge section of the county, and they said, "Got potholes in front of your house?" I said, "No, not this time. What I'm really calling about is 178th Street." So that's number one, and I don't expect you to have any
Let
real.
me add to that. I was called years ago by somebody that lives on 178th and wanted to know when we could get our road chipped and sealed or painted.
Right,
I said, well, that's not the township issue. Feel free to call the governor and let me know how that comes down.
You talk about 178th Street that when it goes down the hill.
yep,
Okay.
down the hill, cross Hog Creek and back up.
On north to hook in with the blacktop up there.
Yes.
Okay.
You had to deal with the
The
bridge
county
reconstruction
is-
a couple months
Yeah.
ago, or a couple.
Yeah, our former county commissioner basically got the southern portion of that done. He didn't get the north part. He got 166 done for miles north to Leavenworth Road.
Yeah, so I remember when they did.
But my
They
second
took-
question, and you do have something to do with this, is that wonderful mausoleum that I look at from my backyard, much like Sarah Palin and her view of Russia. Only I really can see it from my backyard. McGinnis School. What are you gonna do about it? What are we going to do with it is the real question. There's a
Okay.
broken window on the north side. I have taken a picture of it last year. I just took a picture of it tonight. There's another broken window on the south side of it that wasn't there last year when I took a picture of the north side broken. Paint's peeling, the cupola is gonna fall into disrepair shortly. The paint on the addition, on the outside, we're paying what, about $1,500 a year in propane bills on that every year?
No,
Who pays the bill? I have no idea.
what the state has now, and through the Historical Society, is a historical nomination for one-room schoolhouses. This schoolhouse is in that process. We're probably, I'd like to say more than halfway through, but I can't guarantee that.
It's a long process.
It's a long, long process.
You got a brick, you got a concrete block wall on the west side that's holding your brick
It
up.
has been nominated and it has passed. It meets everything that they require, except they need to come out and visit it. And then,
You tore out the wood floor and you poured it full of concrete.
well, it's only the outside that matters for historic. We tried to do this years ago, but the addition to the bathroom on the front wasn't 50 years old.
You haven't been out here that long.
So you're trying to get-
There used to be a 4-H club called the McGinnis Hustlers.
I understand,
And
but
both of my
there's
kids,
nothing there now.
went to the McGinnis School to meet for 4-H.
And
And then for years, especially when I was clerk, it was a voting precinct. Strangers were divided into 2 precincts,
Right.
north and south, and the north, where we live, would vote at McGinnis School. Well, then the Disabled American Act come into effect, and we gotta make sure every voter can get in and blah, blah, blah. And we put a ramp in. And Janet figured that would work. And Janet came out, wasn't it, Janet?
Yeah, the building is ADA accessible.
Yeah.
We
And
did
said, "Well,
everything that they've asked us to do.
you need to blacktop the parking lot." Well, how much is that gonna cost? And we weren't willing to do that. So now Stranger gets to vote over here in Tonganoxie all the way on the south side of town. Instead of 3 miles and less than that for you, from where we used to get to vote. So it has been utilized, and I know where you're coming from.
I understand that,
It's
but it's
not
not been
utilized
utilized
now.
since 2005.
We had a Stranger Township meeting there last month, so there has been.
Really?
Yeah, the next one is,
The next one's gonna be there.
The 15th is there.
Yeah, come on over.
15th of this month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May 15th.
Third Thursday is always ours.
Where's that?
Normal,
you'll get a schoolhouse that they're behind, there's this base.
behind Treated Grocery.
Five trees,
Grocery out Tree's Corner,
okay.
You'll see it.
they're just before.
It's hard to miss.
Well, if you like historical stuff, it's a great building.
No, I'm just writing this down for a minute, so.
It's built in 1868, opened in 1869, longest
At the
school.
last meeting, you said you got something.
I got something from the
They're
historical
taking
society.
it, they're taking
Yeah.
a serious look at it, whatever that means. 2 months, 6 months, 10 years.
Well, unfortunately, it's a long process, so I wouldn't take that. So before I get off the board, I'd like to see that through, whether it's approved or not.
Yes.
I have a series of questions around the budget process or the budgeting. And if I remember right, last year, Stranger went revenue neutral. And there was some discussion about the need for a new fire truck or a different fire truck. And you guys healed off on that, right? And so at some point, you're probably gonna need a fire truck, right?
Probably.
I would say so. But when you look around the county at what's gone on with the fire department, you know, we've had one consolidate,
Yeah, not-
we had
it's
one,
breaking up.
Holiday.
Our District 1 is breaking.
well,
up.
I'm talking about number 2,
District
Sherman and
two.
Reno.
Sherman.
Yeah.
Sherman and Reno.
Yeah, so we had one combined, we had one split up. We still have a couple volunteer ones, right? And you guys are
Well, almost
volunteer.
everybody's volunteer.
Yeah, even in Tonganoxie town, there are 14 firefighters who are volunteer in Tonganoxie
Yeah.
Town Fire Department.
I think Fairmount, Mazer,
Yeah, they
because
have
of its
hired.
size, they have full-time
Yeah.
firemen, and I think
They also
Delaware.
have volunteers.
They have both.
Yeah,
And Bonner just got some.
County City's
Yeah.
the same way.
so I guess where I'm going with my question is, do you guys feel like your status quo of a volunteer fire department is gonna be sustainable in the long run, or are you thinking about doing something with some of the other districts? You know, like it kind of goes back to the budget and, we're having growth in the county and, I would assume you're having maybe a little bit of trouble getting volunteer firefighters. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but most of them are having trouble getting, from what I hear, getting volunteers. So I don't live in Stranger, I live in Fairmount, but, fire services are pretty important. And I know you have the mutual aid, so that's important as well. But I was just kind of curious from your perspective, the budget, like, is the new growth enough to sustain the budget, or do you think you're gonna have to go, increase the mill levy? I don't want to get it, but just really, I was interested about the fire department and the long range view of, do you think that's sustainable with your current model?
Well, let's talk about first you mentioned building new truck last year. We put out a survey to taxpayers of Stranger Township. Would they be in favor of spending $1.9 million to do this? We had a consultant come in, got with the fire department on drawing up for building and costs. We put out feelers for other people to bid on it. Really, 1.8, 1.9 is where it come back. I think the truck itself was $1,900,000.
850.
We were guessing 850.
So
The building
Anyway,
was $1 million.
so we as the board decided that's a lot of money for 3 people to be deciding to raise taxes. So we would almost have to double the bill. Is that not correct?
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, so we put this survey in. And it came back, and I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of the returnees voted no. So
It's
that's
actually higher than that, but that's okay.
so anyway, that's why we
Like 67,
we did what we did last year. I mean, they said they don't want their taxes raised. They don't want to spend $1.9 million. So that brings us up to this year. So now I have approached and talked to people in the past. Say I've been on the board since 2006. You see Platte County and other counties doing a fire district, Southern Platte County. Is that something that we could do here and maybe pool our monies together? Of course, in Fire District 1 come up and they got together with 2 other townships and they had a falling out. The drawback is, and I had one of the chiefs tell me, it's that would be fine if you got the right people on the board and you could decide where the money went this year. Okay, Stranger needs a township. Delaware needs a addition to the building. And how do you decide where that goes? But some of the fire chiefs basically said, well, they don't want to give up their power. So, and I don't know, or I don't know if you went to a couple of those meetings or not, but anyway, so I think that's a great idea if you get the right people on the board, because you wouldn't have to raise the mill on just one single township to do that. You could divide it up amongst the 10 townships in the county. So
Essentially, it's a turf issue.
well, yeah.
You get right down to it.
And you see that. I mean,
Sure.
that's we're Americans. That's what we do.
Yeah,
But
the question I have is vis-a-vis the equipment that Stranger Township currently has. You've got a pumper that I think is getting a little aged,
23 years old.
and you've got a national organization that certifies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How much longer is that pumper going to last?
It's all depends on the mechanical parts of it
Roll the dice,
right
and
now.
a brand new truck can break down, so.
No, sir, no, that question really is, how long will that truck continue to be able to be certified as,
As long as it can pass the test.
okay,
It's so far, we get it pump tested every year,
okay,
and so far it's passed flying colors. All the equipment on it's been tested, ladders have been tested, SCBA's have been tested every year. It's all done. It's a lot of work, but it's necessary for us to know how our equipment's holding up.
right,
7 more years, that truck will be an antique. Will it still function? Very possible. But it will always make a good reserve truck.
But Bert, it boils down to how much money do you need to spend to keep it passing certification?
Right now, we're not in too serious shape. I am concerned about the engine because at one time it was losing antifreeze. I don't know where it was going. And now it's stopped. So I'm
Fix
suspecting,
itself.
I'm suspecting.
Yeah.
I'm suspecting a hit gas.
That's its own def system.
Yeah.
And guess the finally got plugged
I've heard it mentioned before that insurance rates that we pay on our homes, autos, and property are in the rural part of the county are impacted by the status or distance from a
Fire station.
fire station. Could you guys elaborate on that a little bit?
And fire hydrants.
Well, here's what I know, and I'm certainly not an expert. I know one thing, I've heard from several people that State Farm is not using ISO anymore.
ISO is,
As in for the insurance rating for what
They've been taken over by another company now. It's no,
Okay.
I don't think it's no longer right, so.
okay, well, I just heard that not too
I
much
just
ago.
took a class.
Anyway. So most of it comes down to the equipment fire department has, manpower, training, and then the rest of it is water availability and distance from the fire station. Is that not correct?
Yeah, it's a big part of it, but we also get counted with our mutual aid agreement, water shuttle. So all the fire departments locally participate in that. So we all fall under that one
Test.
criteria for the test for that.
I've got a fire hydrant right across the street from me.
So do I.
I have a fire hydrant directly across the street from me on Frank Baldwin's old property, Suburban Water, which is our water district. And I've asked the insurance company before, I've got a fire hydrant right across the street. And the response is, it doesn't do you any good until the fire department gets there and can hook up to the fire hydrant. I can't hook the garden hose up to the fire hydrant and put a fire out. And this is just me now. This is just me. These guys might disagree with me. I think insurance rates are based on what's going on in the country. Between the wildfires in California and all the floods and hurricanes and everything going on the East Coast, everybody's insurance is gonna go up, and it's really not gonna make much difference what your fire rating is. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little.
I got one right across the street from me too.
There you go.
You've seen it, Larry had to put it in when he subdivided his property to the west of me there.
Yeah.
And it's right over across the street.
Now, it's great when the fire department gets there, but the insurance
Yeah.
company keeps telling you, it's no good until the fire department gets there.
Yeah, the other side of this equation is, of course, that the only thing that I've used in 20 years of living in the county is EMS.
Well, and I was gonna touch on that.
Yeah, that's
We all pay taxes. All of us. And there's a lot of stuff that we pay for that we never use. It's nice if you need an ambulance. It's great, but if you never need one, you're paying it. I haven't had a kid in school for 32 years, but I'm still paying $4.58 for kids to go to school.
so am I.
You know, it's nice to have a fire department, but if you never have a fire, but that's just tax.
That's the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
You'll notice that when EMS shows up, fire shows up. too.
Yep.
That's just like,
Well, you were there.
I was.
Yeah.
that's just like all these library levies. Everybody pays a library. Now, personally, I seldom go to the basic community library.
You have a wife that
But
does.
my wife works 2 days a week there, three hours a day. She's got quite a grueling schedule.
Yes.
And she'll tell you, Lyle, she'll tell you to your face, because she's told me 100 times, it's the best tax money we spend. Yours.
It absolutely is.
This is the first time I've been in this building.
Yeah.
When was this building?
What, 5 years ago, something like that? It's,
I know.
the courthouse has the old library,
Yeah, I remember that as a kid, yeah.
and it's it was, they tore the old school used to be right here.
Mhm.
And it was maybe 2 or 3 years after they tore the old school down, they put the new library here.
Well, I was for all that anyway.
So I want to thank you for your service, for your public service, all of you. It's an observation that you're getting up there a little bit in age. And I know like some of the other, there are a lot of wisdom, right? And, you know, I see some of that in the other townships as well. And so just, I'm thinking, you know, like there's probably not a lot of younger people that really are wild about becoming a township official. So then I think, well, what's the future of our township elected officials? You know, we're probably looking at the successor right here, right? But you know, that,
Next week, yeah.
right, I mean, that is a concern because, I mean, at some point you're gonna say, hey, I'm done. And so like, what is the time commitment associated with being a township trustee?
Let me answer.
So,
Yeah.
We are in a Republican county, Republican state. I'm a conservative Democrat. So when a Republican runs against me, that's it.
Mhm.
So I know I will lose. So that's my time for it.
just a little bit of history about, and then if you want.
Yeah.
And I know I'm old. When I was clerk, we still had the same 10 townships. If I remember right, we only had 4 of them that had any kind of a fire department. Fairmount, Linwood, Sherman, Delaware, and I think either Tonganoxie or Easton. And the other townships, simply Stranger, which is what we're talking about, we just contracted with Fairmount to come out and fight our fire. We gave them X amount of dollars a year, I think whatever 1 mill would raise. They agreed to it, and it didn't make any difference whether it was 2 fires or 50. You're gonna get this amount of money, you're gonna agree to come out whenever you're called. Well, then everybody grew and Baser got to the point, that they needed full time, which they do. There's no question that that size needs it. And now we have 10 townships and they're all in the firefighting. I don't know whether that's good or bad. I'm just giving you a history lesson of what it was back in the 70s, all through the 80s into the early 90s. It really hasn't been that long ago. So, and now everybody's got one. You have more on.
Well, I was just gonna say, when you ran as the trustee, did you have anybody running against you?
Well, I've got kind of a strange story.
Probably not gonna like it.
I really didn't run.
Okay.
He was
You
right.
were appointed.
My son-in-law, who lives on the farm, you know, whenever you go in and vote, there's a blank line.
Yeah.
And for years, my name got written in on more than one
Uh-huh.
place. Well, 5 years ago, he not only wrote it in, but he got his wife to write it in, he got his son to write it in, he got the neighbors across the street to write it in. And I go in the day after the election, because I still go back to the courthouse and help on election night, and I go back in and finish up. And I'll go in on Wednesday and Janet says, well, you got more than enough Republican votes to be a candidate for Stranger Township trustee. I said, how long do I have if I want to turn this down? This is on Wednesday. He said, I need to know by Friday. So I call this guy.
I think I said, you'll have more fun than you've ever had.
He said, you really need to run. He said,
Yeah.
my question to him, to be 100% honest, which I try to be all the time. I didn't want to be in the Troy Bird, run to the fire station every time my beeper. If that was part of being a trustee, then I was going to tell Janet I didn't want to run. Chuck assured me that the 3 people on the board did not have beepers. And I said, okay. He said, you really need to run. So I did.
Well,
So how many years ago was that?
Well, I'm in my second term and I waited until the last week before the filing deadline before I brought my dollar.
Okay. Well, thank you for the story. Guys have any more questions?
Pardon me?
Oh. People are going to ooh and ah when they take a look at, this little plaque that we have here for you. We really appreciate you coming in and talking to us. It's been enjoyable and it's the occasional joke has been nice. And I can't speak for every rural member of the county, but we appreciate what the townships do. And specifically what those guys back over there in the corner do for little or no compensation.
They're the workers.
Little or no compensation, great job, guys.
Yeah.
Does anybody want any more of these sheets? I'll be glad to give them, if you got a neighbor or anybody,